Now, in their only live televised debate, the candidates for Miami mayor face off ahead of the December 9th runoff in what will be an historic election, with both candidates presenting themselves as a break from Miami's corrupt and incestuous past. Eileen Higgins is a county commissioner who came in first in the November election, garnering 36% of the vote. She has stressed affordable housing as well as greater government transparency and efficiency.
We've been living in a period of 8 years where it's nothing but yelling, dysfunction, corruption, lawsuits. Nothing is getting done for the people.
Emilio Gonzalez made it to the runoff with 19% of the vote. The former city manager and airport director, Gonzalez argues he is ready to lead on day one and that the election results show voters are ready to do things differently.
First of all, that they don't want the same old tired politicians here, that they want somebody new, they want professionalism.
This race is garnering national attention because even though it is technically nonpartisan, both political parties see it as a critical contest. Gonzalez touts the endorsement of President Donald Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis, while Higgins has the backing of not only the local and state Democratic parties, but also the Democratic National Committee. Nevertheless, the next mayor of Miami will face an array of issues that affect residents regardless of party. Everything from creating more affordable housing to dealing with street flooding, from public safety to garbage collection, from tackling the homeless crisis to making sure seniors don't go hungry. Miami is at a crossroads and the stakes couldn't be higher. And tonight, you will hear from the two candidates vying to lead this city. Good evening, I'm Jim DeFede, and thank you for joining us. Whether you live in the city of Miami or not, who leads the city has a profound impact on all of South Florida. And let's face it, for years now, Miami's name has been synonymous with scandal, ineptitude, and boorish behavior in which the same political names make their way onto the ballot. Look at this. These are the city's last 9 mayors. But this election has the potential to break from the past, depending on the course the next mayor sets for a city facing ever-growing challenges. So let's get started. And I want to thank both candidates for agreeing to do this and coming in today. And, we're going to have a good conversation. We don't have strict rules about 1 minute and 2 minute response and the rest of it. We're going to get into a lot of issues tonight. But I want to start with you, Emilio. Sure. And I want to start with the thing that has gotten you a lot of attention, the fact that you were endorsed by Donald Trump. Was that something that you sought?
It was something that came to me quite by surprise. I literally was resting, reading, my phone went off, and I thought, gee, what happened? Somebody died. What's going on here? And it was just people telling me, hey, you've just been endorsed by the president. I do know that the president, because he's a resident of the state of Florida, and there's talk of putting a library here in Miami, he follows events in Florida. He follows events closely. And so I wasn't surprised, but it wasn't something that, I called up there and said, hey, can you do this for me?
All right. And given that Miami is a city of immigrants.
Yes, sir.
When you accept Donald Trump's endorsement, when he tweets out and puts out on there that he believes in you because you agree with his vision when it comes to migrant crime and the rest of it, I'm curious, do you support the president's policies when it comes to rounding up immigrants? 60% of the residents of the city of Miami were born outside the United States. The vast majority of the people who are being detained, who are being picked up, do not have criminal records. Are you supportive, and will you help Donald Trump enforce that policy?
Well, you just said it. I support rounding up people who commit crimes. The president says that I support putting down migrant criminals. I cannot, in good conscience, fight the federal government and defend a rapist or a murderer like happens in other cities.
But the majority of the people being picked up right now are not rapists.
Yes, but the majority, what you're talking about is a federal issue. This is a federal issue that has to do with Homeland Security. This is not an issue that has to do with the mayor of Miami. Now, mind you, I know who to talk to. I've been the immigration director. I can advocate for our community, which I certainly will. I plan on adding an immigration services staff member to help guide us through this. But this is not a topic that you want to just take on the president for. It's ludicrous. The president sees Florida as very important. He sees Miami as very important. And he has backed me because he feels that I have the leadership qualities to bring the city forward.
I want to bring Eileen in on this, just on the issue of immigration policy and the next mayor of Miami. He's absolutely right. Mayor of Miami does not have say over federal immigration policy. But there is a sense that if Donald Trump is supporting you, that there is a tacit agreement with the policy. Are you concerned by what's happening in the city of Miami?
I'm very concerned with what's happening in the city of Miami for two reasons. First of all, they said they were going to go after criminals, but guess what? They're going after everybody. Every time I am out in our neighborhoods, people are telling me this story of someone they know, a friend, a relative, that has had something happen to them, including going to Alligator Alcatraz. So in addition to being inhumane and cruel, it's also bad for the economy. 2 weeks ago, our federal government, the president, eliminated TPS for Venezuelans. It's almost 100,000 people who have TPS from Venezuela in Miami-Dade County. So I was speaking to a gentleman, has a health clinic. He received notification from the federal government that he had to fire 27 people because they lost their work status.
Do you think he should have rejected the endorsement?
He's the president. I'm very glad the president did not endorse me.
All right. I want to stick with you for a second because you're running an ad right now on TV that is, well, I'll just read you the salient lines on it. In your ad, you say Emilio Gonzalez was accused of fraud, protected the political insiders, and allowed city departments to be weaponized against local businesses, and was forced to resign in disgrace. Do you have proof that he committed fraud?
That was all investigated. He was being talked about. The fraud case was going forward, and he was exonerated at the end. But
so do you think it's fair? But do you think it's fair for? So you acknowledge, because I had to go and look it up, and the Ethics Commission did investigate those allegations about something Joe Carollo had alleged with regard to a deck in his backyard. The Ethics Commission in 2020 investigated and found no basis for it. So if that's the case, if you know that he was not found to have committed fraud, why use that in an ad against him?
Because the residents are frustrated with a city that is nothing but people yelling, suing each other, involved in lawsuits and disruption, so that nothing's getting done for them. When Mr. Gonzalez served as the city manager, all of the same shenanigans that are going on now were going on then. Unfortunately, he had to leave. It was another example of the city of Miami not being able to get things done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to address that because I think there's a misunderstanding there of the role of the city manager. The city manager works for the elected officials, and nobody knows what transpired. Nobody knows how I worked with my staff.
Well, I want to get to that in a second, but on the allegation of fraud, the fact that these commercials are running now against you, what has been your response to that?
Listen, the commercials are running. I get the mailers. People call me. They laugh. They know. People know who I am. They know what I've done.
Why did you resign? Because in the ad it says you resigned in disgrace. Why did you resign?
I resigned because my wife was at the Mount Sinai Hospital intensive care unit going through some very, very serious medical issues. And I had to choose. I brought her home in December, and I had to choose. She was in very delicate health, and I had to choose between going to city commission meetings and undertaking, being a ringmaster in that circus, because that's what it was. It was an absolute circus. I was playing defense the whole time, or I could stay home and take care of my wife, and I opted for that.
Joe Carollo led a lot of that. Are you seeking? Would you accept Joe Carollo's endorsement, Joe Carollo's support in this race? Do you want that?
No,
not at all.
No.
All right, but I want to go back to the issue that Eileen was raising, which I think is a good one. You were there for 2 years as city manager.
I was.
A lot of the issues that you're now saying as mayor you will go in and fix, why didn't you fix them when you were the city manager?
Because a lot of those issues could only be fixed by the elected officials. The city manager doesn't have the wherewithal to introduce something or to correct something. Remember that these are all elected officials that they all know better than everybody else. The city, I was there running interference, and if you research the actual trial against Commissioner Carollo, I was witness number one, and all of the documents that came out highlighted how my staff and I were constantly saying, you can't do that, stop that, we're not going to do that.
Do you accept that? That, in other words, that he really couldn't do much as city manager?
Here's what I can tell you. I serve on a county commission. It's a blended family, right? We've got people from all walks of life and all political viewpoints, right? In order to pass something, you need 7 people to agree with you. I have managed to pass legislation and make sure we're building housing and get approval for new transit projects and flooding projects and banning fertilizer to keep our bay healthy. And I did all of that because I did the hard work of being calm, analyzing issues, presenting legislation, and being able to bring people along with me. The hard personalities, dramatic personalities, that is how I am different. I am calm, I am methodical, and I think deeply, and I will make sure that things happen in the city of Miami.
But I do want to come back to the idea, why couldn't, I mean, I know that a major issue for the two of you is permitting.
Correct.
Fixing the permitting system in the city of Miami. Even Jeff Bezos this week criticized the city of Miami for how terrible it was. I mean, again, I understand that you are the city manager, you're the top administrator. Could you have not fixed permitting when you were there?
Everything has to go through for a vote. So I could have come up with the very best. Listen, you could.
Did you come up with a plan at least?
Did
you try to fix the problem?
Back then it wasn't this bad. We actually instituted some automation for permitting. But the crux of the matter is, you could discover the cure to cancer, but if you don't have 3 people voting for it, it doesn't fly. And that's the issue that we were facing constantly, that we had a series of personalities, and I'm being charitable here, where they were constantly criticizing the administration for doing this and doing that, and you're this and you're that. It was a circus. It was an absolute, total, paralytic circus.
Eileen, we're having this election now because of a lawsuit that Emilio brought to basically guarantee, because commissioners and the mayor had tried to extend their terms a year. He went to court to fight it. I'm curious, why didn't you join in that lawsuit?
Well, here's what I can tell you. Everybody that's ever been involved in the city of Miami spends all their time in court. I knew pretty well we could depend on one of the guys to decide to file a lawsuit and battle it out. If that hadn't happened, I would have happily filed a lawsuit, because you cannot take a year from the people, which is what they were trying to do. If you want to change the election to an even number year, you need to give a year to the people, and you can't even do that without asking them that. I have said many times, when I'm elected on December 9th, I will put an item on the ballot that changes elections to 2028. I will give up 1 year of my first term, because we must move to even number your elections so we can maximize turnout in the city of Miami.
Emilio, I've watched some of the debates. I want to get a clear answer from you. Do you agree with that? Would you also support moving the Miami mayor's election to 2028?
Oh, I have no, in fact, I've said so publicly on Spanish language radio. I would give up a year. That's not a problem. The issue here was that, as the manager, I read the charter, and the charter says you can't do this. You cannot change the election date, and you cannot extend your term in office. And I tried to warn them, and they could care less. And I filed lawsuit. It would have been nice if other people would have filed a lawsuit, but I did this by myself. There's only one person, one other candidate, that actually came out and said, "Way to go." And that was Michael Hepburn, of all people.
But I want to go back to the issue of changing the election to 2028, because I've heard you also say, yes, you're in favor, you'd give up a year, you'd move it to 2028, but then at the same time, you then criticize the idea because you say, we'll be so far down the ballot, we won't be able to raise money, we won't be able to do it right. So so you are committed to moving the election if elected mayor?
But I do want to, I want to explain what you just said. I am committed to doing that. My concern is that if we ever have an election in an even number year where there's a president, a governor, a senator, what you're going to end up is having a 14-page ballot and Emilio Gonzalez running for city council or what have you.
Well, that's just going to be the reality, but that's not going to stop you from moving it, correct?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, I just want people to do it with their eyes wide open.
Okay, go ahead.
Jim, something that's very interesting as a person that has actually run in presidential years. I represent 1/3 of the city of Miami. So I realize when the president's at the top of the ballot, I am a little bit further down the ballot as a county commissioner. But in the 1/3 of the city that I represent as county commissioner, I received over 26,000 votes because it was presidential. The person who wins the December 9th election will get fewer votes than that. That is my prediction. So it is important to move to 2028 to get more participation.
I want to take a step quick back for a second. You're going to, one of you will replace Francis Suarez as the next mayor. Was Francis Suarez a good mayor?
Francis Suarez did some things well and did some things not so well. First of all, we were always a famous place, right, for a beautiful place to go on vacation. And Francis's work to make sure we were also recognized as a place where you could move your business, relocate your company, and become part of the future in the tech economy. So he did that well. I hope to continue that work. What he did not do well is he left people behind in that. That exacerbated our crisis of housing affordability. It increased the gap between the haves and the have-nots. As mayor, I intend to focus on making sure that our residents are connected to those opportunities by making sure there's a workforce pipeline of the residents that live in the city of Miami, have always lived in the city of Miami. They need access to these high-paying jobs.
Was Francis Suarez a good mayor?
I think he was a great chief marketing officer for the city. I think he put us on a map in certain industries. I worked with him closely for 2 years. I think he was conscientious. He was trying to do the right thing. He was there for I left after 2 years, but I do think he could have taken a stand on some of the more, dramatic things that happened in our commission when they tried to redistrict as a way of punishing somebody, or somebody was removed from office. There are a lot of things that I think he could have been more vocal as the mayor, but I do think that he did yeoman's work in putting the city on the map for technology, for sports, for everything else. Miami is a world-class city.
Francis Suarez was also known as someone who was criticized for conflicts of interest, particularly when it comes to outside employment.
Correct.
So I just want to be clear about a couple of things. What are you currently employed doing, and will you continue that if you're elected mayor? Will you have outside employment as a mayor?
I am currently a partner in an asset management company. I'm an advisor. The company is in Los Angeles. I work out of my house.
Ducenta, is it?
Correct.
Ducenta?
Correct. My schedule is my own. If I don't want to work today, I don't work today. If I want to work tomorrow, I'll work tomorrow. So I don't see a conflict right there. Ducenta does no business with Miami, no business with the state of Florida. So at the moment, I don't see a conflict. If ever a conflict were to arise, absolutely, I would.
How would folks know if there's a conflict? Would we have access to your client list?
If we had clients in Florida, of course.
Well, okay, Eileen, I want to bring you in on this. Will you have outside employment as the mayor of the city of Miami?
No, I never had outside employment in my several terms as county commissioner, and I intend to be a full-time mayor. Miami deserves a full-time mayor. You should get up every day, you should go to City Hall, you should work on the things that can make our community better, stronger, and more affordable.
I want to come back to the company that you currently work for,
yes.
Ducenta Squared Asset Management.
Correct.
The CEO is David Kang, correct? He also is the president of RIAR Squared.
Correct.
That company, and David Kang, I would assume, has donated $500,000 to your PAC, the
yes.
PAC that you have working, Mission Miami.
Correct.
Out of the $900,000 that you've raised, more than $500,000 have come from him. Why is he donating $500,000? What does he expect?
Absolutely nothing. David Kang is an old friend of mine. He is not only a business partner, but he's a friend and colleague. When I told him I was going to run for mayor, we discussed the fact that I'm not a politician. I'm starting from zero. I don't have a PAC. I didn't have a campaign account. And he and other partners said, you know what, we want you to do this. We support you. We think you're the right guy, and we're going to get behind you.
Do you accept, I guess I'm curious as to your reaction to that, whether or not you feel that there is even the appearance of a conflict of interest?
I don't know if there's a conflict of interest. If they don't have clients in Florida, there may not be. What there is a conflict of time, right? This is a full-time job. Miami is a city that has great strengths, but we have some serious struggles, right? Seas are rising. We've got public works projects that are behind schedule. We got the worst permitting system almost in the United States of America. Businesses can't get open. Homeowners can't get a permit to fix their windows or their roofs. You can't get affordable housing under construction unless it takes at least 2 years to get your permit. You gotta be at City Hall working. And so the conflicts can be conflicts of time.
Go ahead, I'm
not
sorry,
of
go
money.
ahead.
Nobody says, listen, campaigning is a full-time job. I'm campaigning full-time, and I also have my job, which I do early in the morning for a couple of hours. So like I said, I enjoy the intellectual challenge of being in the financial services industry. I think it would complement my position as mayor. And the day I find that I can't do it, fine, I let it go. But I will tell you that I'm not going to take on any other work. Listen.
The issue of conflicts of interest, though, I mean, Miami has been labeled the Shakedown city. It's part of the reputation that the city of Miami has, that there is a pay-to-play atmosphere. You know, I want to ask you, the people who work on your campaign have a history of also working on other campaigns and then having closer relationships with businesses and entities that do business with local governments. How can folks be sure that the folks who are working on your campaign, who are supporting you, will not try to profit from their association with you going forward?
Well, here's what I can tell you. You've got to look at my 8 years on the county commission. I have a campaign team, I have a work team, and they never get involved together. Obviously, you need a campaign team to go tell you which doors to knock on, how to figure out how to do direct mail, and all of the things that have to be done for that. But you have to remember, Jim, I have 20 plus years experience in the private sector, another decade of experience in the federal government. I don't need any help from my campaign manager on how to do business and how to run what needs to be run, whether it was District 5 at the County Commission, and I'm certainly not going to have my campaign team involved in how we run the city.
All right, I think this is a good place to take the first break, because when I come back, I do want to get into property taxes, affordability, sea level rise, all of those issues. But I just think it was important to sort of set the tone, because this is a transitional election, and I think folks are concerned about who the leader of the city is going to be, not just on the issues. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about those issues, affordability and sea level rise, and all those things that make the city of Miami interesting. Stay with us. Welcome back to the CBS News Miami special. Voters decide the race to be the next mayor of Miami. I'm joined by candidates Eileen Higgins and Emilio Gonzalez. On December 9th, one of them will be elected to take charge of a city with an operating budget of $2 billion. That's a lot of money. Before I do want to get to affordable housing. I want to get to property taxes. I want to get to a number of issues. But there was news today in that the Miami-Dade College Board of Trustees decided to stop fighting a lawsuit and to re-vote on the Trump Library for downtown Miami. Now, if this project goes through, it very well will likely take place during the next mayor's tenure at some point. And I'm just sort of curious, I'm going to start with you, Emilio. Is there anything about this process, and I realize you don't control this process, this is Miami-Dade College in the state of Florida, but anything about this project that concerns you going forward as mayor, whether it's about the density of a library, the traffic, and whatever other waivers that are going to come with it in terms of doing the types of things that normally a major construction project like this would require for city? Do you have any concerns about this?
But you're talking about future and hypothetical. Listen, I think a presidential library in Miami is wonderful. If President Biden wanted to put his library here, I think it would be wonderful. It's jobs, it's tourism, and it puts us, once again, it puts Miami on the map. This is an issue between Miami-Dade College and the state. They're going to hash it out. They've got an army of attorneys figuring out who's done what to whom. And as mayor, when we get the green light, and this is all on the up and up, and we're going to have a library, I'm going to be there.
Eileen, any concerns for you about the Trump Presidential Library?
Yeah, well, we gave away very valuable land to a billionaire for free. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? Happy to have a presidential library for any president. It's an honor to have that in the city of Miami. But it's a land giveaway. And that is something we need to be very careful of. And let's just think about what the state did, right? We could have sold that land, generated cash from that land, and paid for all the things they've cut, right? They've cut food aid, they've cut aid to seniors, they haven't funded affordable housing the way they're supposed to. They cut a bunch of our resiliency projects, they cut all the funding forever for transit. So how can our state be giving away money that we need to make our community better?
Speaking of money and taxes and all those sorts of things, the governor is proposing an effort right now to try to do away with all homesteaded property taxes. I was trying to look at this with the city of Miami. I think from property taxes, you get $650 million roughly in property taxes. About a third of that, I guess, would be homesteaded property.
Yeah.
It's a little over $100 million, I believe.
A little over $100 million. Yeah. Do you support the governor's idea of trying to get rid of homesteaded property taxes? And how do you deal with the resulting loss of revenue for the city of Miami? What programs would you end up being willing to cut?
Well, the governor's plan, I think he wants to put it on the ballot, and I think it's gonna win hands down. My issue has to do with how we're being overtaxed and underserved. So, for example, if we're looking at $102, $103 million in property taxes, we just had the chief financial officer here tell us that we've been overtaxed $95 million. So the delta is very small. We can find that delta in efficiencies. Our city budget is bloated right now. We're spending stuff left and right. When I left the city, we only had a budget of about $1.5 billion. I think there are opportunities here for efficiencies, and nothing has to suffer. If I may, one quick one. In the 2 years that I was city manager, my second year budget was less than my first year budget. That hardly ever happens, and no services suffered because of that.
I want to bring Eileen in. You're dealing with this, currently at the county level with regard to loss of potential property taxes. What would it mean in the city of Miami if you did away with homesteaded property taxes?
Well, I think what we're looking at is about $100 million. That has to be valued, but that's not the only issue that's going on, right? The city budget has virtually doubled in the past 5 years. And I live there, my services haven't doubled, and I haven't talked to anyone who thinks their services have doubled. And let's be real, costs have gone up, right? You know that, it's costing more to do projects, et cetera, et cetera. An incredible evaluation and a deep dive into the city budget has to happen. And let's also talk about the permitting system. That costs us so much money because it's not just outside people that are getting permitting. Let's say we have resiliency projects. We're going to put in some stormwater drains. We're going to put in some stormwater pumps. It can take 2 to 3 years to get the permits for their own projects in the city. And that means the cost for those projects go up 40%.
How do you fix the permitting issue in the city of Miami?
So when I arrived at the County Commission, our permitting system was pretty bad. It took 2 years to permit an affordable housing building, and then it took 2 years to build it. Well, that's ridiculous. So I passed the legislation and all of the accompanying funding for new computer systems to dramatically overhaul the county's permitting system. Last time I permitted affordable housing building, both were in the city of Miami. One under county permitting, 107 days. The other one under city permitting, 15 months. We are locking people out of housing. And that also means the housing is going up. Because for every month you wait for a permit, cost of lumber's going up, cost of concrete's going up, cost of steel is going up, cost of labor's going up. There are ways to save money because we need to look not just only at homesteaded folks getting money back, right? They actually have the benefit of owning a home. 70% of the people that live in the city of Miami rent. They're not going to get a break on their taxes with what the governor's proposing. That's why we've got to look at the holistic budget. So if we can reduce property taxes for non-homesteaded folks, we can save them money as well.
Let's stick with permitting. Pick up what you want, but I also want you to address the issue of how do you fix the permitting department?
The minute I announced, I said that my priority was going to be my immediate priority would be permitting and procurement. Permitting is abysmal. We built the Empire State Building in 410 days. Are you kidding? You can't even get a certificate of occupancy then. I've talked to people who have waited 5 years to open a business. I've talked to people who've gone under before they even started. Our permitting system is broken. We have a 2025 city that's organized in 1970 style. I'm almost to the point where having no permit is better than what we have now. I've said it day one, I'm going to convene immediately a task force, come back in 30 days, and I'm going to do it with people in the community, come back in 30 days and give me what the best practices are. What we have right now is not, it's actually worse practice, and we get called out on it a lot. Our people suffer, our businesses are going under. It is unconscionable, it is absolutely unconscionable that we have the permitting system that we do. With that is our procurement system. no is never no, yes is never yes. You enter in an RFP and you don't know whether you win or not because it'll drag on for years. Get yourself 2 lobbyists and 3 lawyers, and you could just keep this going for years. People laugh at us. People laugh at us. You mentioned Miami, they go, oh, that's the corrupt city. I had a colleague at a business, in a financial services conference, and I asked him, just sort of nonchalant, do you do business in Miami? We don't do business in Miami. Why? Because it's too corrupt. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, Jim.
Eileen, I'll let this conversation breathe for a little bit. Go ahead.
The procurement process is outrageously slow. I have talked to, I cannot tell you the number of companies, world-class companies that build infrastructure everywhere in America, including Miami-Dade County. None of them will even bid on contracts in the city of Miami. That has to stop. The process takes forever. Like, as an example, the city of Miami, you want to submit to do like a road project, your bid is this thick. That same project with FDOT bidding procurement, your bid documents would be like this. We have got to look for ways to streamline this and make it go more quickly.
May I real quick?
Sure.
There was an issue while I was the city manager that had to do with a marina. I won't mention the name. But when I got there, somebody had won a bid 5 years earlier. They still hadn't taken the marina. I left after 2 years, they still hadn't. It went to court. A judge, a federal judge, Judge Fine, his last trial, he just laid it out for the city of Miami. You guys don't want open and honest.
So how do you create the change? So really what you're talking about as much as anything is not just the process, but also the perception that Miami is a pay-to-play city. How do you change that perception? Eileen?
First of all, you get a city manager that is all business, that is innovative, that has new ideas, that is a good people manager, and you start from there. We have a culture at the city of Miami, and we've got a lot of good employees at the city of Miami, but they are living in an environment where we have had for many years commissioners on the dais that literally are abusive to employees in public on television in these meetings, yelling at them, calling them by name. They live in fear of being fired because of the commission. That's all ending on December 9th.
Do you have in your mind who you want as being your next city manager?
I have a number of people that are I'm thinking about.
What's that? Give me an idea. Obviously, I'm not going to give me a name. Yeah, I know that. But describe the type of person you're looking for.
Here's what I'm looking for, because I think as we put together this team, there's going to be 2 things. One, we need somebody that is outrageously innovative, tech-facing, that can implement the new ideas that we need to move Miami into 2026. But at the same time, we have thousands of employees that are going to be experiencing change, and change is hard. And so we are also going to need a second person that is really about change management and who has experience transforming organizations without leaving people out of that change, bringing it forward compassionately and competently.
Let's talk about the city manager. I'm assuming, and I haven't even checked with the current city manager, Art Noriega. I'm assuming he knows he's leaving at the end of his tenure, right? Neither of you are looking to maintain or keep Art Noriega?
No.
No, right? No, of course not. Okay. Do you know who you want to bring in as city manager right now?
No.
What are you looking for? What are you looking for in a city manager?
I'm looking for a city manager that's well respected, that has gravitas, that is experienced, that when people point at him, they say, you know what, it's a new day. We've got to set the tone and tenor. We could discover and talk about any number of things, but our residents have to take us serious again. We have lost the respect of our residents.
So Eileen raised a point a second ago, and I know you've talked about it, the issue of how you manage the 5 egos on the city commission. That if it was difficult for you as a city manager to deal with those politicians, it's equally challenging as the mayor to deal with those city commissioners. So Eileen, I'll start with you. How do you deal with the 5 people that you're going to have on the dais? And again, you don't even know who some of them may be, and they may change over the course of your term.
I'm going to deal with them exactly the way I dealt with the county commission, right? There's 13 of us, so I'm one. I know how to deal with myself. But we've got 12 other people, and you have to think about what do they understand, What are they going to be concerned about every time you present a new idea for change? And you've got to build a coalition so that you can deliver your 7 votes. If I can deliver 7 votes, I for sure can deliver 3 votes.
You got, I mean, essentially, for a lot of reasons, whether it was also with your wife, with other things, you got worn down by the commission when you were city manager. Why shouldn't the public think that you'll get worn down and run out by this current city commission or the next commission that you have to deal with?
First of all, I wasn't worn down. I left because family first. But I'm going to work with all commissioners. This is an election. When this election is over and I'm declared the mayor, they're going to understand that things are going to be different. And I will sit with each one of them and say, you know what, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's do what's right for our city. I will work with you. We'll share priorities. We'll share our vision, and we'll move on.
I want to just stick with the commission for a second. There have been several proposals that have been suggested of expanding the number of city commissioners from the current number of 5 to 7 or 9. Emilio, I'll start with you. What is your position? Do you think that the city commission should be expanded so that the districts are smaller? And the theory being, of course, that local representatives will be a little bit closer to the people they serve.
Right now, I do not. I think what we don't need more commissioners. We need better commissioners. And I think that if you want to tell people, hey, you know what, you've got all this dysfunction, and oh, by the way, we're going to add 4 more, I think that's a wrong move. Now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, things settle down, that may be something to consider, but I don't think we should have that as a going-in position.
Eileen, expanding the commission?
So when you look at cities of our size in Florida and across the nation, we have one of the smallest commissions out there. I strongly support the the Stronger Miami initiative to expand to 9 commission districts. What that will do is it will make sure that each neighborhood gets true representation. Right? You can go into different neighborhoods now and you see there's illegal dumping here. They are simply not able to pay attention to these large districts. Places like downtown will be kept together. Places like Shenandoah won't be divided in 2. Places like like Coconut Grove won't be divided. And the most important thing we can do, in addition to that, is making sure that those elections happen in even number years so we have very high voter turnout.
By the way, I like the subtle reference to the Miami Forever.
Sorry.
I do want to talk about that, but in a second. But I want to stay right now with the city administration that you will inherit and try to shape going forward. We talked about the city manager. What about the city police chief and all the other department heads? What is your plan going in? Do you expect to clean house with everyone? Or how will you approach whether or not to keep the city police chief, keep department directors, and so forth?
Individual by individual. My presence as mayor of the city should be enough to let people know that things are going to be run differently. I'm not going to be just the next mayor, okay? I'm there to do some heavy lifting. I'm there to promote bold ideas, and I will sit with each department head. And if they share my vision and they're willing to step forward, happy to have them aboard.
So you don't go in already thinking the city police chief, I'm removing. It's open on that.
I think everybody is. Everybody should be. Everybody should have an opportunity to explain to me why they should be part of my team, given my vision.
How do you approach this?
I approach it in a very similar fashion, right? We have now, Francis, for all of his strengths, is an absent mayor. He is not in City Hall every day as an active mayor, in staff meetings, talking to people, brainstorming about how to do things. But let me be clear, things are going to change. We are going to run a city that treats our residents like they are our customers, not like enemies of the state. When we call up and we want to get a permit to put a fence in our yard, it's ridiculous the way they feel their treatment is. And folks are going to have to figure out how to be innovative. And let me tell you, my first week, I'm going to be asking certain questions. Every week, somebody's going to have to come up with something they do that's a total waste of time, and we got to get rid of it. Right? We have got to get rid of it. And they're going to have an opportunity to prove themselves to me, but we're going to have new ideas in there. By the way, there's openings all over the city of Miami because it's a toxic work environment. So there's plenty of ways to keep the good people that are there, involve them in new processes that put them on the path of service to our residents while adding and infusing some innovation and change.
I keep teasing that we're going to talk about affordable housing, and so we're going to talk about it now, but I almost feel as if it's such an amorphous subject in many ways. I've listened to both of you extensively talk about affordable housing, but let me just sort of start, because that you mentioned the Miami Forever bond from 2017, in which $400 million was allocated, $100 million of which was supposed to go to affordable housing. I don't think anybody really knows what happened and where that money is, but let's talk about affordable housing. Starting with that, what we're trying to figure out where that bond money is. How do you go about building affordable housing realistically in the city of Miami?
So the way I did it at the county is, when I was elected, I looked at every single piece of county-owned land in District 5, and I said, what the heck is on this? Sometimes it was a parking lot, sometimes it was a one-story building right across the street from a transit station, and I said, that's it. If it's possible, we're going to put housing on it. We need to do the same thing at the city. Let me give you an example of Mel Reese, right? We gave away, whatever it is, 80-something acres to build a soccer stadium. I'm excited about a soccer stadium. But that plan has not one unit of housing on all those acres. It's just hotels. Okay, it's near the airport, but everything else is Class A office space. Never would that have been signed by me had I been mayor without housing. Housing is the top priority of the people that live here, and it's going to be my top priority as mayor.
I want to hear from you in general on affordable housing, but the issue of Mel Reese, it was actually one of the questions that I had here. A lot of that negotiation took place when you were city manager. Am I correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
A lot of that, I started with me and I left, and that continued and finished.
But when it started with you, as you were looking at that, did you propose, did you suggest, was there any discussion? She just said, I would never have done a Mel Reese deal without including something about affordable housing. Did you ever have those discussions in those early stages to say, hey, if we go and develop this, affordable housing should be part of the mix?
We never got to that because those early stages had to do with how much landfill and what the appraisals were. It was all very technical. But I will say I was very clear that we would not use one single dime in taxpayer money for that entire project.
So all right, now let's move on to, what is your vision for how to do affordable housing in Miami?
Well, first of all, affordable housing doesn't exist here, because even what we call affordable housing, you pay $2,000 to $3,000 a month for an apartment. Nobody can afford that. We really need to start thinking about how we can leverage the funds. You mentioned the Miami Forever bond. Of the $400 million, $100 million was for affordable housing. We asked the FIU Metropolitan Center, hey, do a study for us. How can we best take this $100 million and do something constructive with it? They were laughed out of City Hall. We don't want to hear it. We know what's best. You guys are a bunch of academics. Don't tell us how we should spend our money. We have to make sure, for example, the AMI should be a lot lower than it is now. It should be in the 80s, not in the 140s. You can't call it affordable housing if you're paying $3,000 a month for an apartment or a condo. We need to just step back and look at it. Another thing is, and you know, Eileen's plan of building available properties. Miami is the largest landholder. The city of Miami is the largest landholder in the city. But everywhere you look now, there's a tower going up. I got one in my backyard. I woke up one morning and there's a crane. And you ask yourself, well, how did this happen? Because they're building everywhere. Everywhere you look, in the middle of neighborhoods, there are towers going up. Oh, because we have affordable housing, because we're going to dedicate X number of units to No, it's not affordable housing. Teachers can't afford it. Cops can't afford it. It's a misnomer, and we need to really address the issue. The other thing I might add is, and this goes back to everything, Jim, nobody's going to believe that we're going to tackle anything if they don't believe us that we're going to be the very best mayor for them and worry about them.
We only have a few. Did you have anything that you wanted to say on that?
Listen, we're at the county. I built thousands of affordable housing units.
By the way, let me hold you right there.
Yeah.
Do you accept that
What?
she built thousands of affordable housing units?
Not physically. I think you may have voted for projects, but
No, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
yes. I mean,
Yes.
if you tell me you built thousands,
I did.
I will accept it. Fine.
I'm not going to make that up.
No. Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
No, it's been suggested that maybe the
That's
numbers
fine.
are
It's been
right.
suggested
Because
by
I think
people that.
I think you were at the question at
Yeah.
Miami Herald editorial board when you went in, and whether or not you could actually name projects and that sort of thing. That's why I wanted to give you that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can name them. I have them in a spreadsheet. I can take you on a tour of them. But let me tell you, of these units, the bulk of them are for very low income people. They're making 30% of area median income. And so their rents are capped. And at that point, you're talking about particularly senior citizens and people with disabilities paying $200 to $300 a month for their rent, right? So we have different levels, and then you'll have some units for 80%. That might be a young working professional, but their rents are adjusted to their income in those units. Our problem is live local, right? The state has basically preempted all zoning, and now you can build anything you want, anywhere you want, within a mile of the next tallest building and call it affordable at 120% of AMI.
Can opt out of live local if they wanted to, if they could demonstrate that they had enough.
I do want to move on. Street flooding, major issue. Whether it rains or not, flooding happening. What is your plan for tackling flooding in the city of Miami?
Look, first of all, forget a hurricane, okay? It's a light storm will flood a street. We have pumps in place. We have to look at mitigation efforts. We have to look at being innovative. For example, if things really get bad in a storm, we have to look at some of our parks to see if they could serve as reservoirs.
I want to move it along.
But listen, at the end of the day, Miami is built on a swamp. We need to mitigate. I stand by the fact that we have to work
Let me bring
hard
Eileen
at
in.
mitigating.
Go ahead.
So there's all kinds of things that have to be done. First of all, permeable pavement. I tried to build 2 affordable housing for sale. I was forced to use asphalt, wasn't allowed to use permeable pavement in the city of Miami. Those things need to change. We need our parks to be built more quickly. They're sitting around, they can't get permitted either. That's green infrastructure. We need green infrastructure, gray infrastructure, blue infrastructure.
I have 2 minutes before this next break, so I'm going to give you each a minute. We did a story on Sunday about the meal programs for seniors being cut at the state level. I want to give you each, so often the city of Miami, the local government is the final safety net. After federal cuts, state cuts, we don't know what's going to happen with the county going forward. The CBOs were able to be saved, but we don't know how much longer. How do you view your role as a safety net, whether it's for seniors or anyone else in the city of Miami?
What's happening at the state and federal level, I call it like it's trickle-down hatred. They are literally cutting food and water and life from some of our poorest folks, and the state cut meals for seniors. What are their other options? And that is forcing local governments to have to take on these responsibilities at a greater level. It's going to put a huge crunch on the budget. And the elimination of SNAP, by the way, we got it funded now, but it goes away again next October. It's in the budget going away that Congress passed.
How do we deal with the security net for seniors and others?
Many of the meals for seniors are actually managed by the commissioners who they will go and they'll say, well, in my district, I'm going to do this or I'm going to give them that. I've created the Department of Human Services, the first ever. I think we should have a line item for meals for seniors. The state can do whatever they want or not do whatever they want, and the feds too, but we have an obligation to our people, and we have to take care of our seniors, and if that means creating a line item, however much it is, we'll find the money, because that goes back to taking care of our people first. Our seniors should not have to worry whether they're going to starve tomorrow.
All right. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we'll do some closing statements. I may even try to fit in one other quick question with the candidates. Thank you very much. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and we're about to get to closing arguments, but closing statements, but I can't do that without getting some recommendations first. I'm going to ask each of you, what's your favorite restaurant in Miami and why?
All right, Pega Grill, because I can walk there from County Hall, and Claudia owns it, and it's a local business, and it's just delicious, healthy, and amazing.
Favorite restaurant? Favorite restaurant?
I'm a foodie. I have several. Thai, Lung Yai on 8th Street, Achana in the Grove, Greek, Meraki in the Grove, and Mexican, Rincon Mexicano on 8th Street.
All right. Emilio, by a toss of the coin, we determine who went first, who went second in the closing statements. Emilio, you go first. look right into camera, and you got a minute.
First, thank you very much for hosting this event. I think that our residents do need to see everything there is to see about their candidates for mayor. My goal is very simple. I want to return Miami to greatness. I lead. Since I was 20 years old, I have been in a leadership position. I have led at the small unit level. I have led a bureaucracy of 19,000 employees. This, for me, is an opportunity to return, to give back to my city, and to take Miami where it needs to be. We need to work on governability. We need to have a city that works for its residents. We need to end the predator state, where the prey are the people and the predator are the government bureaucrats. We need to concentrate on accountability and affordability so that people can afford to live here. And we need to work on family first agenda. We need to make sure that our families are taken care of, our children are taken care of, our elders are taken care of, and Miami will grow together. No more two Miamis, no more income gaps, one Miami, and I'm the one that's going to get us there.
All right, Emilio, Eileen, you have 1 minute.
Well, friends, you have a lot to decide in the next 2 weeks before December 9th, because the future of the city is in your hands. That's the joy of America, isn't it? We get to pick our leaders. For me, I'm running for City of Miami mayor because I'd like to restore trust in City Hall and get things done for the people. I bring a track record from my 8 years at the County Commission, focusing on the things that matter to you: affordable housing, better transportation, small business support, and protection of the environment. Those are the things I will bring to the city. But most importantly, I will also bring a new way of working, one that does not involve yelling, does not involve screaming. It just involves showing up at City Hall every day and working for the people. Please, as you go into this Thanksgiving weekend, spend time with your family and your loved ones. Think about all that we have in our beautiful city, and then make a thoughtful decision on December 9th. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, I want to thank both of you. This was certainly lively, but before we go, a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, December 9th. Again, I want to thank both candidates for joining me. Now it's up to you at home. And remember, if you don't vote, you have no one to blame but yourself for what happens next. I'm Jim DeFede. Thanks again for watching, and have a good night.